live stream. It's looking good.
That beat, and we're gonna ride the boogie. Share that beat of love. I wanna rock with you. Oh, I wanna dance you. I wanna dance you into daylight. I wanna ride with you. Oh, I wanna dance the night away. I wanna dance, dance, dance the night away. I wanna dance the night away. Out on the floor, there ain't nobody there but us. Oh girl, when you dance, there's a magic that must be love. Just take it slow, 'cause we've got so far to go. I wanna feel that beat, gonna ride the boogie, share that beat of love. I wanna rock with you all night. I wanna dance, 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 dance you into daylight. I wanna rock with you all night. I wanna dance the night away. And when the groove is dead and gone, you know that love's around, and we can rock forever. I wanna rock with you. I wanna rock with you. Oh, I wanna rock with you. I wanna groove with you. Oh, I wanna groove with you. Yes, I do. Share that beat of love. Share that beat of love. I wanna rock with you all night. Oh, I wanna dance you into daylight. I wanna rock with you all night. I wanna dance the night away. And when the groove is dead and gone, you know that love survives, and we can rock forever. Yeah. Y'all have been so lovely. Thank you very much. That's
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my guest, Emily Braden. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
And yeah, we're just kind of getting situated in the morning. And sorry, you guys listening, but we YouTube again. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ever going to fix that, but it'll appear on YouTube. Anyway, so Em and I just met.
Yep.
So you're meeting her, I'm meeting her, and for those of you who know her already, you're ahead of the game. So so here you are. I really love your singing. It's really it's a mash of cool stuff, cool feels, and yeah, it's really nice. Good singing.
Thank you very much. I've been at it for a while, so I hope it's at least decent at this point.
Yes, well, we always hope that. It's like, can I still
Exactly.
sing? Yeah. Um, so, yeah, I'm interested in how you came up, I think first, I know you're from Boise, right?
Yes, from Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
I was born and raised there, and was there through high school. And then and was a choir kid and just loved all different types of music and really thought it out. I always make the joke on stage that like if music can reach me in Boise, Idaho, that's a testament to the power of American music, of jazz, of soul, of all that, of all the wonderful music that comes from our country.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I just was, always from a kid was interested in sort of the performance aspect, was always dancing and singing and all that stuff. But really, music captured me very early on with choir. And then I had on both sides actually a lot of singing, I would say, specifically like my dad's mom who lived in Las Vegas. We'd go spend summers with her and she was always very just sing-songy, always had things singing little tunes to us. And then my maternal grandmother, who lived in Idaho as well, was someone who I always credit with sort of gifting me music, and along with music really tied in a lot about American history, about Black history, about civil rights. Like she was just really deep into all of that. She was kind of a humanitarian. So, we'd have full on listening sessions with like little snacks and a record for everybody from Frank Sinatra to BB King to Queen to, so it was really varied. And then my mom also has a beautiful singing voice and she's a kindergarten teacher, but she, sings and we always had music on and yeah, and then we also found out, my mother was adopted and people always say, "Oh, is like music in your family?" I'd say, "Well, I don't know." She was adopted and we've got the adoption papers and it was really cool. There's only, it was 1950 and there were only a few sentences written, but it turns out that both of her parents as well, her dad, her biological father loved languages and played the guitar or the piano, I can't remember which. And then the mother, it says, had a lovely singing voice and played piano. So you never, they always say it's on the mother's side, but I thought that was so fascinating that that was what they chose to include in the papers.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
So
I've
there was
also
kind of music
I've also
everywhere.
never heard that it's on the mother's side.
Okay, yeah, who knows, right? We hear all this stuff. But I was like, okay, I'll take, because my dad definitely didn't sing. He was not a singer. He liked country and, Paul Simon and deep country music and really didn't sing for anything, but inspired me in other ways, we'll say that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, and then, so after high school, where'd you move?
Yeah, so choir kid in high school, and the Northwest has such a strong vocal jazz, or music education in general, and then vocal jazz community and network. So I was sort of scouted or auditioned for a vocal jazz group right outside of Portland called Genesis,
Oh,
at Mount Hood. It's a community college. My parents were devastated that I went to community college as
wait,
opposed to the,
is Mount
yeah.
Hood the school with the exceptional teacher?
Yes, that was that. Dave Bardoon. He's not there anymore, but yes, it was kind of the one that people were like,
Yeah, I remember that. I was like an adjudicator
oh,
for that festival up. I can't remember what area it was, but it was up north. Maybe it was
totally.
Northern California. And I remember Mount Hood. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Just
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, really, because there were some teachers who were horrible, and it showed in the singers.
Sure.
It's like
Yes.
I don't know who's teaching this person, but whatever they're teaching is bad. But Mount Hood, I always remembered that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really strong program, and I was always academic, so I did have some scholarships and stuff. And my parent and I was like, no, I really, really, really want to do this, and it took me literally sort of dragging my mom to a number of those schools, and then when she heard what was happening at Mount Hood under Dave Bardoon's direction, she was like, okay, I get it, I really get it, because Bardoon grew up really much very, very much close to the lineage. He played within Stan Kenton's big band and did a lot of arranging,
Oh, okay.
and so he understood the value also of performance as well, which I think is different than a lot of music education.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool, safe baby step into what it's like to be a professional artist, because we would go and perform for all of these high schools, and you learn about mic technique and setting up a PA and just all those things that, to be honest with you, I think is a barrier for a lot of people that want to sing. They're like, I don't know how to perform. I don't know how to do these specific things. So it was a really cool stepping stone into being a performer, was through that vocal jazz program, and also the basics of tech of theory and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I met you, speaking of adjudicators, Louise Rose. I don't know, as a West Coast person, do you know of her?
No, but the name sounds kind of familiar.
Okay, and I mean, she's my mentor, still to this
Huh.
day. Sort of a hidden gem. She lives in Victoria, British Columbia.
Huh.
She studied under Oscar Peterson as a pianist, so that was her first thing. But she's a vocalist as well, an incredible,
Huh.
incredible artist. And
Yeah.
she's from the East Coast of the States, but moved to Canada, and that became, her happy place.
Yeah.
So her name's Louise. She I met her while I was in Genesis,
Uh-huh.
and then at some point we sang a duet. I think it was right when I was graduating. We sang a gospel duet called Over My Head. And she asked me afterwards, if she was like, so is music, are you planning to do this in your real life? And I was like, naive at what that really meant. But I was like, yes, I am. It's like, looking back, I'm like, wow, that was, but I was very clear I wanted to do it. And she said, okay, well, if you want, come. And she offered to have me study under her. So that's how I ended up moving to Victoria, British Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like my places are not really known for jazz and soul music, but Idaho, Gresham, Oregon, and then Victoria, BC before I moved out to Harlem.
So how long were you in Canada?
I was there for 7 years, and it was extraordinary. I always sort of joke that, people talk about going to, like, India, sort of like a Mecca, or like this, spiritual journey. For me, Victoria really was that. I really changed there was a lot of healing that occurred, even as I think I was 19 or 20 when I moved there, but I lived by the water. I had this studio apartment. I had these incredible vocal lessons that were part therapy, part vocal lessons, and kind of just was able to shed a lot of, just coming into my own, both as an artist and as a person, and went through a physical transformation there, and then also got very invested in my education there, which had nothing to do with music. So it was sort of funny, because I was going to UVic for my visa. It's like, oh, I have to go to university, and totally got immersed in Latin American studies there. So I'm a Spanish speaker, it's my second language, and I got my bachelor's and my master's, but it was almost as exciting to me as the music.
Yeah.
They have a real similar place for me about just connecting with other people. So learning Spanish and doing my master's thesis, and traveling quite a bit and becoming really close with professors there kept me there for a long time. So I was there for 7 years.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's funny, I was ready after my bachelor's. I was like, I'm moving to New York City, and all of my family who are educators were like, my dear, just get your master's degree. You have 2 more years. You have a scholarship and stuff. So I stayed, and those years were really, really rich and wonderful for me. And also the years in which I recorded an album. So I think that was good, because, as these bigger cities, it's hard to not get sort of swallowed up. So it was nice to have a project under my belt that I could sort of direct people to when I was trying to book and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it worked out well. And I was back and forth for a little bit. I was scared, I think, to leave a very comfortable, wonderful, supportive place for Harlem. So I held on to my studio apartment for a couple years and was sort of, am I doing this? Am I really doing this? And then it just, New York really just kind of, captured my heart and swept me away. So I've been here for a very long time.
Yeah. And so when you moved to New York, had you set up location connections? Had you set all that up first, or did you kind
Honestly,
of wing it?
barely. My musical partner and producer, I have two albums out, one from a very long time ago and one from 2023. So working on making more music. But the person who produced those, I met him in Victoria, and he was my only connection. He's based in New York City, Misha Piatigorsky. So I knew him, and we had started a really cool bond, playing together. And then I fell in love, and I was dating a drummer that lived in New York City. And so those were my two people here, and I just moved here. I did the whole thing. I did the 2 suitcases. Like, my friends held a garage sale to pay for my plane ticket here. I just went for it. And really it took a good, it's interesting to see, I feel now that I'm somewhat of almost an elder now in the music, having been here for 15 years and seeing new people come in. It's interesting to hear their story, because I remember that. I remember doing the pay to play thing. I had day jobs. I felt like it took me a long time. We didn't have also social media as much to kind of
Yeah.
expedite the process of people knowing who you are. So I would say it took me at least the first 2 years just to get my bearings, just to start working a little bit in music.
Yeah.
Totally different world now.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not anywhere near as old as I am, but yeah, in the last, I mean, you can't help but look at the chapters, that have gone by and contemplate it, especially now when, for me and for a lot of people my age, we seem to be really slowing down,
Mhm.
and wanting singing for different reasons than we did before, or I'm not even sure I knew all my goals back then. I just was going,
Yeah.
I just did it. And, like when I was here when I was 21 in LA. And so at that time, God, we worked 10 gigs a week. We were
Yeah.
all working, we were sharing gigs, we were doing all kinds of gigs, not just jazz gigs. And I mean, we learned how to sing, we learned about music, we made connections, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting to, contemplate at this point, and
Absolutely.
not that I'm not busy, because I have one of those muses that just keeps giving me stuff, Hey, how
Yeah.
about this?
I love that.
Okay. But but I want to sing more. Like I'm singing tomorrow, and my piano player came over yesterday. We haven't worked for a little bit together, but I mean, he and I did a lot together. But it was, it's like, oh yeah, right. I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. You're bringing up two things for me, because I moved here also. I was 25 or 26 when I started
Yeah.
coming to New York.
Uh-huh.
Um, and now I'm spanning 3 decades of living in the city. And late 30s is when I also started to, what you just said, I love that about, you start realizing that you might be singing for a different reason, or that it's coming from a different place, as opposed to just doing it all the time. And I also had the similar school of just, that's how I learned to sing. I was just always performing. I was always organizing bands. People are like, how do you know how to command a band? It's like, out of necessity, because I've been working with hundreds of people, literally wherever I go, a lot of pickup bands and stuff. So I think, I had started contemplating all of that just kind of before the pandemic, when I was really like, wow, this is a very deep um line of work. I always felt that, but there was something that really cracked open for me about what it is that we do for ourselves and also for our audience. And then of course the pandemic, the reflection got even deeper, and I went through some things because of COVID with my voice as well. So and that sort of segues over to what you're saying about vocal vocal health. So also sort of embracing how our voices change over time, but also understanding for me, as I started to hit an age where my voice was like, you can't just get up and do all the things all the time. Like you have to work, about how athletic singing is, and how, you know, the training required to sing through your entire life. Like I feel like I just had a lesson today that was like, whoa, totally new information, new sound coming from me. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a lifelong process. And I think when you're young and you don't have to think about the maintenance that it requires and the effort and the training that it really requires as much as you do as you start to like get past your, get into the second part.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
Also, I won't go into to it first, but I also went through a number of years where my voice was really bugging me. It
Yeah.
was the production just it wasn't good. And I had this angel guy who was supporting these records. And probably that was the only reason I didn't stop singing,
Mm.
because I just felt I didn't want to let him down, and it was an opportunity that I had that I would never have again. At some
Wow.
point that was going to stop, and but I've had this chronic cough for 25 years, and I think
Oh,
that really affected the production. And I looked around various teachers, and finally in the last year, 2 years, probably 2 years, my voice has like uh, kind of come back. And also, like you, there are lessons that I just like, what is that? I don't, you know, my body was like, so like, I don't know what that is. I don't know, I'm not sure I like that. And I'm going, no, I like it. I'm going to be doing that. You're going to be practicing that.
yeah. Yeah, it's that I find that very exciting. And it's, in the past, like, I don't know, like I said, sort of mid to late 30s, and getting into I didn't even practice the first decade I made music. I just was always singing. So
Yeah.
you're kind of always in shape, right? But then also develop those habits where it's like, okay, I need to adjust this. So it's been really enlightening and exciting for me, for the most part. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's a little daunting about how much work you have to do, but
Yeah.
at the same time, in general, it's quite exciting that you can have a practice that just continually blows your mind and
Yeah. Yeah.
helps access. And then what you're talking about, it's a deep experience to also go have issues with what is our it's so much the center of our expression of ourselves. and
Yeah.
and for me, it was a vocal injury that was a post-COVID vocal hemorrhage that I was in lessons through that. I was doing vocal therapy, but I had a cough for 14 days or whatever it was, and on top of chords that were very likely imperfect after many many years of singing anyway. And then I was doing vocal therapy through that. I went on tour a couple months later, and it became a vocal polyp. So I had a great, my vocal coach, Kate Baker, was incredible with vocal therapy and all of that. But there was, from the end of March, this was 2022, through, I actually ended up having a procedure done in July. Like there was really, I had to go through all the phases of grief of like, am I gonna be able to do this again? Like what, all of that. So it gives you such perspective and, yeah, such appreciation for the expression that we have with our voice.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also totally broke down so much of the stigma and the fear that I had about injury and what I thought. injury comes from. And it's like, I just thought it was when you don't know how to sing or not singing well. And it's like, no, the voice is a tiny, very tender instrument, and there's a lot of things at play all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's also cool teaching, right? Because
Oh,
you get to see, you get to explain things like that you maybe never thought of explaining, and you learn from yourself. Well, you learn from
100%.
the person going through the issue, and then you learn from what you're saying. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like that opened up my world. It made me feel, the years of vocal lessons. I didn't used to teach technique. I would teach like vocal styling, but now I feel much more comfortable teaching basic and intermediate technique. So it did give me other skills as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Um, so your style of singing, or from what I've heard, is kind of incorporates, different things. And I guess talking about how you grew up listening to various music with your grandmother, that's partly why, right? Um, but do you find it, what's your perspective on the description of genre that you've either been given or maybe you've decided for yourself? I mean, do you feel like you're forced into descriptions of genre?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, someone, and I can't remember who it is for the life of me, we were talking about this, and they were like, no matter what, you're going to be a jazz singer. And I was like, okay, and it took me a minute. And then and they were saying just because of the way that you approach melody and the way that you play with a live band and the improvisational spirit of it, like, period, you're going to be considered a jazz singer. Um, I think, I think there's more people and voices, vocalists like me. I feel like there is sort of a straight ahead adjacent genre that I don't know what to call. Like it's like it's soulful jazz, but I also absolutely learned to sing through the American songbook. So um, it's just one of those things that your identity really becomes whatever it is that you nurtured your artistry on, just becomes who you are. And I found that it was interesting when you were saying that you also used to do a lot of gigs in different genres, right? Like it was like you were working musician. So also part of my artistry has come out of necessity and well as well. Like I love all music, but it's also been like, oh, I can work a lot more if I do more than just this small thing. So it's like jazz sort of taught me, gave me my voice, and then like the soul and the R&B is so much of what, 90s R&B is like my jam, because that's when I grew up, with all that music. So early Whitney, you know, all of those, like I said, all the R&B voices are there. There's something in there of that as well. And then I just had one more thing to say, but I forgot. But and then a little bit of that necessity, right? Like I learned how to sing a number of pop songs because that helped me be able to pay my rent here in New York City. So um and I think there's really a lineage of singers that sometimes get slighted because they're not right in the pocket of pocket, that's ironic to use that word, but right in the heart of straight ahead, like swings gently, always following sort of that tradition. But it's like if you look at Shaka Khan, if you look at a lot of these soul singers, Donny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, who had a number of jazz albums as well, or at least one that I can think of, um, who just, I think those delineations, as there's a lot of conversation around this that I don't need to go into, but I don't think they're actually true in many ways. And it's like, I just feel that for me, the jazz spirit is there, and I just feel like a lot of the music that I love and appreciate and have nurtured myself on comes from the blues, it comes from black church, it comes from R&B, and so that inevitably will be part of who I am. I didn't grow up in black church, but all the music that I listen to certainly, comes from that lineage.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't find during this period of time in business, you know, in business that it's really a problem, right?
I wouldn't say that it's not a problem. I just had an interesting conversation with my vocal coach about this as well. I think, yes, I do think that the industry is generally a couple steps behind, but the optimistic part of myself recognizes that both labels and booking people are starting to embrace a little bit more of these artists about how our story really makes our artistry, right? And the
Yeah,
fabric of what we grew up on, those maybe those juxtaposed positions. I mean, I love Joni Mitchell. I love her songwriting. That influences my songwriting. So kind of those like quilts, right? That make us really unique. I do find that there's more more venues and more bookers that are open and interested in that. So
yeah,
that is exciting. But um me and industry is a complicated story. I haven't felt a sense of fitting in, and I also haven't truly sought that approval of industry. So I'm always kind of a little bit on the outskirts, and I think part of me likes that in some ways. Or else I would be trying harder to be, seen in that or recognized in the industry.
yeah, yeah, I
So
get
yeah,
that.
it's a little, I kind of like walk both sides of that conversation. Like, yes, it's expanding, and yes, I also feel like it still is it's still a machine that, wants to reduce people to certain
Yeah. Yeah.
profiles.
But I agree with you as far as like the opening of the door, Liz Wright. I
Yeah.
always am curious that they book her as a jazz singer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think she's one of the more surprising ones. And then Lisa Fisher I mean, when I've seen Lisa with her small group, her guitar trio, it's very jazz-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, she acts like a jazz singer. Um, she doesn't really do jazz tunes per se, but the songs have improvisational qualities
Yes.
to them, and
I I
yeah,
think I just saw her last week,
yeah,
at the or this week, at Birdland here. I think what as we're talking, I'm realizing that identification as a jazz singer really has to do almost more with a skill set of being on stage with the live band and having a certain being part of the band, right? Like both musically and also navigating that, as opposed to a lot of genres where it's like the band is doing a thing, the singer is doing a very specific thing. There's just such improvisational spirit that I think people who are outside of jazz are like, oh, that's jazz, because it's not anything else, you know. So
right.
yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm still going through it. I'm 71. I've been singing all
yeah,
my life. I sang the Great American Songbook for years. I grew up in the 70s, so I had all that influence in
yeah.
Boston. There was a lot of other influence. And yeah, because nowadays there are different things that are coming out. I'm choosing different types of songs than just standards. And
Yes.
so I don't know. So, I mean, I've just as a business whim, I've given myself the genre of alternative jazz. I don't know what that means. I just came up with it. So I don't know, just to call myself something that, people could relate to, whatever.
Yeah.
If you hear me, you're going to say, it's kind of like I did a gig once and somebody wanted a country song. So we did a country song. And then someone came up and said, could we hear a country song? Which just made me laugh. It was like, oh, I get it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that's the risk you run, is a lot of people are invited into this exciting space of merging things, and then other people are like, you're not quite doing this one right, and you're not quite doing that one right, and you're not quite, you're not country enough, and you're not soul enough, and you don't do the R&B riffs, and you don't only swing, or you add R&B to your swing. So it's like it's totally a mentality thing, and I feel like I just have had to find my audience and my people who are like, that's cool. I hear what you added in here. I hear that you have a piece
Yeah.
of this. It's just
Yeah.
And then I also feel I've always felt compelled to write original music. I'm not especially prolific, but I feel very proud, and like that's a big part of my artistry is the original music that I also want to contribute, partly as in the spirit of these genres melding, mixing, and evolving. It's like, look at all these incredible songs that have come from people's unique experiences as well. So I think that that's important. And when people ask me about my original music, the two words I would use are soul and jazz. I just say like it's in there somewhere. And that's a reduction for sure, because I sing in Spanish. I do like sort of funk stuff. There's a whole thing, but I think those are good identifiers for me, that people will always be like, oh, she listens to a lot of soul, or she has
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something that she has. So
Yeah. I feel like we should listen to something, and maybe we can listen to something at Sam first.
sure, yeah.
And we have, well, I'll show you what we have, and then you can tell me. We have Strength of Love, Imagine My Frustration, Wallflowers, Fantasy, Angel Eyes, Sweet Little Dreams, Swell Live. Either
Oh,
like an original or something, something.
totally. The Strength of Love original is maybe the most straightforward, if you want to go with that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This this is in LA.
Yes,
Are these LA players? I don't recognize
they
people.
are. Yeah, John Davis, the drummer I met here in New York,
Uh-huh.
but he lives out there, and the other guys I met.
Oh yeah, Sam Barsh, I know. Yeah.
Yes, I love Sam.
Yeah.
Hard times calling like they called out before. Bygones keep knocking on forgotten doors. And even though it seems the odds are steady stacking up, yeah, we will fight with the strength of love.
Yeah, I remember listening to this.
You know the words keep piling up deep down in my chest. Late nights I'm sifting through the heaviness. There's nothing I might find to say could ever be enough. Still I sing with the strength of love, 'cause I believe
I love the way the
there's
trio
still a
approached it
chance
too.
for peace.
Yeah, yeah.
Until justice is more than just a dream. I said the only way there is everybody getting free. You and I for our humanity.
Give you a fresh take, depending on how
Well,
you play it.
downtown folks are proudly living out loud. We keep building up joy right where they shot it down. With a blossom in the barrel and a fist to the sun, we resist with the strength of love. Oh, uptown, weary voices are scraping the sky every day out on the front line. Oh, every name we're crying out belong to someone. Sing it loud with the strength of love. Yeah, I believe there's still a chance of peace until justice is more than just a dream. I said the only way there is everybody getting free. You and I for our humanity. Hey, for our humanity. Yeah, our humanity. Whoa, our humanity. Well, now, new minds keep shining with the promise of youth. But will they live to see their promise through? No war against the innocent could ever be won. We will fight with the strength of love. Yeah. The record's broken. Tell me, is it bound to repeat? You know my heart broke open, but it's full of seeds. Yeah. Oh, everywhere from underground, we're rising up with the strength of love. I believe there's still a chance for peace until justice is more than just a dream. I said the only way there is everybody getting free. You and I, 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 you and I. We will fight, we will sing. Hey, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. We will fight with the strength of love, with the strength of love, yeah, with the strength of love, yeah, with the strength of love, oh, with the strength of love, yeah, with the strength of love, yeah, with the strength of love, hey, yeah, with the strength of love for our humanity. Oh, we will fight with the strength of love. We will fight with the strength of love. Yeah, love, yeah, love, yeah, love, strength of love, yeah, love, yeah, love, yeah, love, yeah, love, yeah, yeah. Oh, with the strength of love, love. All right, yeah. Oh, yeah. With the strength of love, with the strength of love, with the strength, with the strength of love, with the strength, so much strength. So much strength, I'm in love, with the strength of,
Yeah.
with the strength of love.
Yeah. Wow, I love this drummer.
Oh my gosh,
Ron
everything.
Davis. I don't think I know him.
Oh, just so incredible, and gives you so much, but also so much space. That trio in particular, I feel like I rediscovered a lot of my original tunes on that gig because of how the space that they gave, but the energy was not lacking. Because I'm a little bit of a maximalist, but I appreciated so much that I had everything there, but they just laid it down in such a way that it felt brand new in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
They were great. They were really great. And John, I know he played with Cassandra Wilson for a good while. I think he learned a lot in that gig, but I love his approach with vocalists as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Sam and I connected, and I really see that there'll be some more collaboration with him as well. And then Benny Rossman was on bass, and he's great. And
Yeah.
that tune was one Misha Piatigorsky, as I mentioned. We write all the original stuff together, so that one in particular, I wrote the lyrics for, and he wrote the music too. Other times, we have a lot of different versions of how we collaborate, but that was kind of a straight up one.
Yeah, I'd like to see the lyrics on that. I mean, it reminds me of some of how I write too. Like
Okay.
positive, come on, let's go, let's look, come on,
I keep thinking because when you mentioned the 70s, I'm a little bit obsessed with the 70s and all the music that came from the 70s. And
Yeah,
then also listening to that song, I'm like, damn, we're singing the same stuff. It's all still relevant as far as that is the most overtly kind of political song that I've ever written. And it wasn't really even intentional. I always joke that like the optimistic spirit was like, I'm coming out no matter what. Like
yeah,
in,
yeah,
in the writing of that, I'm talking about LGBTQ rights. I'm talking about, Black and Brown Lives Matter. I'm talking about gun violence. I'm talking about history repeating and all that stuff. And I just so as we're going back to like being compelled to write original music, I'm just so grateful for the space and for also to have that as my legacy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that we get a chance to say what we really want to say in original or what is uniquely ours to say, you know, in original music.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been writing for, let's see, uh, let's see. Hold on, I have to think about this.
Right.
20, I've been writing over 40 years.
That's
And
incredible.
so I have a number of tunes, but and what's intriguing to me is like it's like a fine artist or that form of art. It's like there are these series that come, like in a
Mhm.
week, if you continue writing, you're going to write in this kind of quality.
Yes.
Yeah, which is interesting, you know.
Yeah, they're like almost like the blue period, and you're right.
Yeah.
I'm just
Right.
starting to write some new stuff as well, and I do feel that too. It lives in a certain space, or like
Yeah.
there's like colors around it, or they have a similar, you know, a lot of the tunes from the last one that I wrote had I thought were about grief because I had lost my father. The election for me was also grief in 2016, and you know, so I was writing from that spirit, and then realized that the flip of grief is really love and resilience, you know, so it ended up being that. But it's funny how you're like you said, it just kind of they all live in a certain place.
Yeah.
um, I love that. It's very similar, you
I
know,
do too.
to a
I love
visual
it too.
artist.
And I love, like there's a bunch of songs that I write that are very simple,
Hmm.
harmonically, like almost from, I don't know, maybe from my folk era or,
Sure.
just very simple stuff, but really heart connected. And so, and I really enjoy having the jazz players play those, because
Yeah.
they bring something like a really beautiful quality in, that maybe just the song and the chords don't really, flourish in revealing.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's really nice. And over the years, I've learned, there was one point where I stopped writing because it wasn't jazzy enough what was coming out. And so
Okay,
about a
okay.
year later, I realized, oh, hello, you're not
Yeah.
writing anymore. So why don't you just write and you can throw songs away or somebody else can sing them or you don't have to, whatever, just
This
keep
is
writing,
exactly where that's exactly where I'm at. I love where we're going with this conversation because I also I always dread the winter and then it ends up being quite creatively fruitful for
Yeah.
me. But I've also very recently was like, look, you have got to give yourself permission, like just to write, you know, very similar to what you're saying, and that you don't ever have to sing them. You can let them go because that critic, it kills everything. It kills the vibe. It actually stops probably for me close, you know, probably about 100 songs have I wanted to write and then been like, it's not good enough, or it's
Yeah.
too simple,
Yeah.
or I don't
Yeah.
know how to, you know, and it's so I'm really trying, and I also like what you were saying about simplicity and the jazz players playing the music, because you know my composition. I'm very much I love language, and I've always been a writer and a poet and a journal all the time, and but my compositional skills are quite limited. I play piano enough to compose, but like need collaboration in order to really lift those things up. But I'm always teetering between also like simplicity and then just celebrating skill, you know, like of partly of my musical partner, again, just like his incredible depth and richness of harmony. And I want to create music that merges those two things, and so that it's accessible and simple and that the message is there, but also people without knowing it are listening to quite sophisticated, really rich movement underneath, you know, and or melodically. So
Yeah.
it's a fun challenge, but I totally geek out on original music. So I'm glad you also, you know, talk about writing, and but also like you said, just write the thing and just get
Yeah.
it out, you know,
Get
make
it
room for the
out. Yeah.
next one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting process. I've
Yeah.
written I've written a handful of songs to jazz composers, music.
Yep.
Uh, I wrote something for Pat Metheny, and he actually loved it and
Oh,
gave me publishing rights and stuff. Vince Mendoza, same thing.
wow.
I wrote one for John Abercrombie, but they didn't give me permission, but I wrote it.
Mhm.
Schofield,
Oh,
I
cool.
wrote lyrics. I've written for Monk Tunes. Um, who else did there's an amazing pianist here, Otmaro Ruiz, and I've written for him, and I'm actually in the process of writing for him again. And a Brazilian guy named Ginga. Do you know
Okay.
Ginga?
Ginga, I'm not sure. Is it a newer group or is more
Ginga's a
traditional?
man, and he's kind of like a Jobim kind of a guy. He's
Oh, cool.
probably, I don't know, he's probably around 70, I would guess. And anyway, he's one of the prolific Brazilian
I
writers.
should know. If I don't
Does
know, I should know. So
really
I'll look it up.
beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, I mean, what when I hear a song and I'm moved, somebody else's like a jazz
Mhm. Yep.
composition, um, then I just write it. I don't, whatever. I don't
Yeah.
care that, whatever.
I,
I'm just gonna
I
write
know.
it. Yeah,
Absolutely. I also, it's funny when I talk to my students a lot, I talk about it's hard to articulate quickly, but listening to instrumentalists and trying to hear what they're saying, similar to how lyricists do as you begin, as a way to understand phrasing as well. Like just kind of putting words over what's happening with them, I think actually really builds this cool muscle of a more authentic and conversational phrasing as a vocalist. Again, takes a little while to expand on that idea, but
yeah,
and I do think that was just something like you said, you start to hear, you just love what's happening and you start to hear words
yeah.
over it,
And I think
And
vocalists are good writers for that, for that.
yes,
Yeah,
comes from
because we do
yes.
phrase, Yeah,
Yeah, I also I've been, I put it out there. I've only written for a couple contemporaries, but one of them, Willem Delisford, he has great original music and asked me to write a lyric to one of his. So I'm always like, listen, give me some more music to write to because I love his compositions. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I have a friend here, Mark Baldrige. Um, I'm sure he's asking for a personal reason, but with recording projects, do you take jobs out of state where you have to record your parts and send the audio back?
Do I do that?
Yes.
Yes, I have, and that was only through the pandemic that I developed that skill. Like you
Yeah.
said about your audio visual
Yeah.
setup, I went ahead, and it's so funny because I was doing those at a distance where someone would do the video of them doing, playing the guitar or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
then um I have a few of those that I did, but yes, it helped me get that skill set together to be able to do that. I'm rusty on it now. I mean, it would take, I'd have to get my whole setup going. Studio work for me is I've gotten better at it, but it's I'm just such a live performer that it isn't I'm not bad at it. Like I have to be, but it's just not as it doesn't call me as much or it's not as easy for me maybe as people who are always in the studio. So I maybe resist it a little more than I should, but I'm grateful again that that skill set kind of came into my world out of necessity with the pandemic. So doing some of that, yeah.
I know what you mean. Actually,
Yeah.
over the years, if it wasn't that I was supported and I had all these projects, I might not have recorded so much because I'm not fond of the experience of me singing in the studio.
Right. Right.
I'm just not fond of that. I remember seeing Sheila Jordan years ago and hearing her say that. She
Really,
hated being in the studio. Yeah, I don't know if that had changed for her
like
over the years.
reassuring to me.
I know, right? Me too.
It's such a different art form and you have to be mentally in a very different place than like live performance. It's so much about tuning in to
Yeah,
everything else and like right
yeah,
synthesizing that and then when that energy isn't there and you're in an isolation booth, I admire the skills so much of people being able to still go there and create the mood and create and use their inspired choices and all that in the studio. I find it more challenging than I care to admit. But I have gotten better at it. Absolutely have gotten better at it. And will continue to. But yeah, it's not as natural for me.
Yay! So,
Yeah.
you've listened to a lot of music. What would be a few Desert Island records that you have?
Um, definitely definitely a Stevie album. Um what's the one I can totally see it in my head with like fulfillingness first finale and anyway, probably a Stevie album. Um it's funny, I don't always listen to her, but Shaka Khan is endlessly inspiring to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Endlessly inspiring to me. And then probably some live Ella.
Uh-huh.
But that would be so hard to choose because then I keep thinking I'm like I like Errol Garner is always a default for me. Like if I don't know what else to listen to, Errol Garner, speaking of sort of conversational phrasing and stuff, I love what he does. So I would or what he did. So I just put that on and like it inspires me endlessly. So maybe also some instrumental music. My instrumental trifecta was or has for long been Oscar Peterson, Ahmad Jamal, and Errol Garner. Like those three. And then of course, horn players and stuff. But those three pianists inspire me a lot vocally.
Yeah, yeah,
How about you?
yeah. Again, hard. Marvin Gaye, definitely.
Oof. Yeah.
Especially what's going on, that record, that whole
Oh
album.
yeah.
I mean, that was just one of my all-time favorite records.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, I would probably have some Michael Brecker.
Oh yes.
And um, I love guitar. It's hard to pick out. Like I like a lot of guitar players. I'm definitely like a real guitar girl, and I've recorded with some really good guitar players. Um, uh, so I don't know, like, well, in recent times, Anthony Wilson has really, his live performances and his recordings have been really interesting. First of all, he's definitely one of my favorite all-time guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings in a lot of different qualities as well. His dad was Gerald Wilson, a big band leader. His mom was, a white Jewish girl, who listened to all the 70s music, so he listened all to that. But he's really so tasteful. And then I think it was about 15 years ago, he started looking into his father's background in Mississippi. And he started writing these songs that I think are kind of like Robert Johnson kind of
Ooh,
stuff.
yeah.
And he started singing, which was,
Oh,
he's come a long way. In the beginning, he was, you know, like a musician trying to sing.
right.
Now it's really beautiful. And the last time I saw him, which was with his own group, it was at Sam First. He had a quartet, piano, bass, drums, and a violin. And each song was like a little movie.
Oh, cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, and he wasn't even like kind of featuring himself that much playing.
Yeah.
Uh, and, and his playing is so tasteful.
Wow.
So, definitely guitar. I would definitely have some guitar. And yeah, I have to go back and look.
No, I know it's impossible, I think, but
Yeah.
that question. But yeah, I love the guitar as well. Do you know who well, do you play guitar?
Not really.
Okay, yeah, I know I love it so much and I pandemic project, one of my things was like, let me play the guitar. So I got
Oh,
really far with it and then I like dropped it. But I was playing full on swing tunes and some
wow.
bossa nova and some stuff. Do you know KJ Dennert? You probably know everybody.
Yes, I do actually. She was out here for a
Oh,
while.
cool. Okay. I
Small
love
time, a small period of time, I think. But yeah, she was really cool.
So I absolutely have so much respect and love for her, and I used to go see her at 55 Bar all the time,
Yeah.
and there was just a cool connection between us. So we connected during the pandemic, and she was like, "Look, like I kind of taught myself how to play, and she's a wonderful, wonderful player. She's like, I'm curious to know what it would be like to teach someone else." So I got the experience of a lifetime of like taking guitar lessons from KJ Dennert for a number of months for a good long while. So
It's cool.
it was really cool. Yeah. And I also just speaking riffing on guitar because I'm so attracted to the sound, but I feel like there must be something in my like genetic history. It like really moves me. It really touches me, guitar music. And I probably don't play with guitars and guitarists enough. I mean, I especially like a vocal guitar duo is kind of everything. I mean, it's you started with that Rock With You performance, and that's a Cuban guitarist who moved away during the pandemic. So much changed here
Yeah.
in those years, but like we had a whole vibe. I just think it's so cool with the sound of guitar and voice together, you know.
Me too.
So
Yeah,
so
not
I
a lot
want
of
more of that.
singers. Yeah, singers don't, I mean, maybe the older more experienced singers like guitar, but
Yes,
the younger singers don't know, they don't know how to relate. And,
agree.
the sound of guitar it holds a particular space, right? And it's
Yes.
just, yeah, I have definitely done my share of studio of duo guitars.
Wow.
Yeah, I
It
really
must be
love.
something about the like spirit of it being accessible everywhere and kind of campfire. There's something really like old
Yeah,
and just like yeah, it always moves me. My uncle is not a professional musician, but I grew up with him always just having a guitar in his hand and playing beautiful, finger picking style guitar and
yeah.
classical guitar as well. So yeah,
Well, I also love that you're tight with KJ because she's kind of, I haven't listened to her in a long time, but when I think of what I thought of her, I kind of put you together with that because as I remember, she was very soulful and her
hmm
songs were really kind of organic and,
hmm
rhythmic and yeah, I just totally dug her.
Oh, I do too. I those were some blissful, you have memories of coming up in music and like nights at 55 listening to KJ will be in the
Yeah,
mix
yeah,
of that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I love an artist like her and her specifically that creates, like you said, as being like a fine artist, creates an entire world, and then you go into their world when they play. Like they're not pulling. It's more like okay, you're in KJ Denner's space now, or you're
Yeah.
in you know
Yeah.
your guitarist space, and I think that's what I strive for, and really I just love that so much about artists who are authentic to
Yeah.
themselves.
Let me ask you something. This is a question that I think about from time to time, both with myself and listening to people. So, speaking regarding of a space, right?
Sure.
So, let's just say an artist like us, we have the maybe our originals and just the kind of quality of sound and style and rhythm that we are attracted to.
Sure.
And um, I'm not even sure of which part of this question is I have, but something about like I saw a friend of mine perform and she did a really good job. She's not a student exactly, but she's less of a professional, you know.
Okay.
And she did a great job. It was really beautiful and asked me what I felt about it because I had been her teacher too. And I complimented her on her voice and phrasing and her attention to the musicians. I mean, everything was really nice. The only
Yeah.
thing was that I felt that she needed to change up
Uh-huh.
either throughout the set or at least by the second set because
Sure.
it was all traveling in this channel. And so,
Yes.
um, so sometimes I wonder about that. I mean, like I said before, I have different series of
Yep.
originals. so I can certainly move around, but I just wonder sometimes, how business people always say, be sure to sing something that people know, because, and I do believe that
Yeah.
people, it's nice. It's nice. It's like a nice solid footing for an
Yeah.
audience to hear something they know.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm asking, but
I can
uh,
already keep going off of what you're talking about. One of the
okay, good.
when I went, I got to go to Brazil, and when I heard everyone singing along with all of the songs, all of the
Yeah,
tunes, that to me brought home that point about that this is a communal thing. So even so, yes, whether that comes from finding a song in which other people can sing with you or doing something that is familiar, there's something really cool about that energy that I think sometimes we, in our intellectual heady approach, it's like I don't want to do a cover of whatever, but there's something really that being that experience of being like, no, everybody wants to be part of it, and the music, it reminds us that it's communal and it's healing collectively, right?
yeah,
And then also, I feel like one of the unique, and I don't know why I'm this way, but I think one of the unique things about my sets is what you're talking about of like, I really consider groove and I really consider maybe almost to a fault. Like, I certainly want the programming to be, to have a flow and to have a really consistent sound. But I also like each tune to really I don't want to keep the whole set here, right? Like
yeah,
and and that's just my approach. And then at the same time I understand that for some people, if you go to, I don't want to name any names, if you go to a certain concert, you know what you're going to get, and it's a very specific color and a very specific
yeah,
flavor. And I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. For me, my preference is an artist that is moving through a landscape that's sort of like, oh, what's next, like
yeah,
that excites me. And I'm also just, I feel very fixated on rhythm and groove, so I consider that a lot. It's like, okay, if I want to move through grooves in the same way that I want to move through emotional
yeah,
statements with my lyrics. So I think that's something that I really get excited by, and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
maybe it's a personal preference, but I'm with you.
yeah.
You want, you want to, I think part of that's wanting to just keep people engaged because they start to glaze over once they feel that they already have a handle on what's
Yeah,
happening
yeah,
sonically.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best concerts I've seen recently was Richard Bona.
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
It was it was a few weeks ago here at the Jazz Bakery, and it was a intimate hall,
Cool.
semicircular, and he had just it was a trio. He was
Hmm.
playing electric and sitting down a lot, and Cuban pianist and drummer, kind of on the younger side, and it was so great. I mean, he's a mother anyway, but he has so much taste and dynamics, I mean, it's really alive, and his singing, he's like an angel.
Oh, I
And then,
know.
he's from Cameroon, and that whole charming, and
Yeah.
there were people there apparently from either Cameroon or Africa, and he was speaking and his communication with the audience, not necessarily while he was playing, some a little bit, but it wasn't like forced communication through his singing. It
Yeah.
was, in between songs, and it was so comfortable and warm. I mean,
Mm.
it was really like there was nothing wrong with that concert at all. It was amazing.
It's so
Yeah,
great to have those experiences to just be
yeah,
like, wow, that how and to strive for that too. I think, in being sort of like in self-evaluating, that's something that I want to get even better at, right? Like you said, just being able to it's really authenticity, right? Like where you
yeah,
just kind of strip away so much, and then but also that everything is communication. Everything is, in between and during, right?
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I've seen him too. He used to have that club here that no longer exists. We've lost a lot of clubs, but I had a duo, a residency at his club, so I got to see him a
oh,
couple times. It was called
Oh,
Bonafide, Club Bonafide.
oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, he was just so cool. He would come through sometimes. I was just always like, oh my God.
Yeah, after the concert, he came right out immediately and hung out with everybody, took pictures, kissed people. I
Right.
mean, yeah, it was, yeah, really,
Yeah.
really beautiful. I mean, how can you not love that? You know, it's so good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it made me think of, let's see, what did that just make me think of? Oh gosh, oh well.
All good.
I
All
don't know.
good. But no, I also remember being very inspired by his rhythmic journeys and the sort of contrast, the tension, the release, the
Yeah,
so
yeah.
masterfully done, definitely.
Well, I think that's why I brought him up too,
Hmm.
because it was not a boring show. You know,
Right?
it was just varied. It was varied, and the presence of him was still in everything, but
Yeah.
it was varied, and yeah, um,
Really appeals to me, but it is an interesting thing with art, right? Like some people, I don't imagine anyone would be critical of him, but some people might be like, for me, I'm always wondering, is it too all over the place? Because I'll do a Ella Fitzgerald, you know, I have this song I've been doing, Imagine My Frustration, and then I wrote an original based off of that called Wallflowers Fantasy, and sometimes I'll put them in the same set. They're totally different, and I try to string them, but like, again, this is a process of learning how to build a set still, 20 years deep into doing it, but I love to reflect back on and to also see people who do it really masterfully is very inspiring.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh. Let's listen again. So like again, well, you have Imagine My Frustration, Wallflowers Fantasy.
Yeah, either. Or Swell is a really wild original one too. It's kind of fun. It's got some of the spoken word like
Okay.
sure,
Yeah.
that one's a wild one. Let's do that one.
Okay, good. I'm going there.
Thank you for joining us for our first set. Thank you so much.
Ooh,
I know.
wow, man. He's good.
That groove killed me. I was like, oh my
Damn.
You walk by and our eyes begin to tell the story of how it starts and where it takes us. To the end, my daydreams bend. Just before I get the pleasure of your acquaintance, why do we even try to fight the undertow? Surrender to a deeper love below. We're standing on the edge, right next to ecstasy.
I love disco, by the way.
Baby, come follow me. Just follow me. It's all just salt and water. You and I, we had an ocean of desire. Our currents crossed each other. There's nothing stronger than the pull between new lovers. I'm caught up in a sudden rush of emotion, wanting to be weightless in your arms. I feel another wave of love come over me. What is coming over me? Come set me free. Sway. Everything in me moves to be closer to you. Sway. My senses overwhelmed, a flood of feeling rushing through to be closer to you. You. Oh, my body's sending signals it's asking for you. The softness of your skin, the sweetness of your lips. What body language tells us is confessional truth. I taste you in my sleep, baby, I dream of your heat. This moment in between us is a deep emerald green, infinite like the sea. This curiosity, the ocean bed is calling, yes, it's calling my name. Feel the turn of the tide, feel your pulse on the ride. So take a deep breath and let's get this dream wet.
Love writing tunes with sections so we can, for the live experience, you know, where they can open up.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I love the single lines, you know, at this moment. It's just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Varsh, everybody. Come on. We're gonna keep it right here for a minute. Let's keep it right here. Original tune. I'm a total word geek. I write a lot of poetry, I write a lot of journals. And so I just like to put beautiful ideas together, you know, as we do. And I'm so inspired by the water. I'm a huge water baby. And a lot of this song was written in the water. Swimming in the ocean, swimming around, you know. So we're gonna bring it down and just explain a little something. It's the push and the pull, the rush and the release. It's the feeling of falling, yeah, when it's flowing just like water. It's the force of the waves, or smooth like sea glass. It's that swirling sense as you're reaching brand new depth. It's the sweat on the shoulder, caresses on the neck, past the island of inhibition, beyond the breakers of regrets. Heaven is down below. We speak in underwater language when we touch. We speak in underwater language. We speak in underwater language when we touch. In underwater language. Oh, your skin makes it holy. There's no need to rush. I wanna break down all the levees that's been holding back your love. It's just the two of us, an extension of our love. It's the O to the H. It's the chemistry we make. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Everything in me moves to be closer to you. Swear my senses overwhelmed. I felt a feeling rushing through. I said I feel it rushing through. Yes, I feel it rushing through. Rushing through. What you find, what you feel, what you know, tell me real. We gotta do it again. What you find, what you feel, what you know. To be real, got to be real. I said it's got to be real, got to be real. I said it's got to be real, got to be real. I said it's got to be, got to be, got to, got to be, got to be, got to be, got to be. Thank you, Sam, first for joining us for our first set, for my first set here in LA. You've been so lovely. We do have another set at 9:30. Please don't go anywhere.
Yeah. All right.
The wild one. That's the wild one.
That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. You know, another really cool thing that I like about your singing is that you're very aware of space, which is, you know, I mean, to me, that's like, I don't know how, I don't even know what importance to put on it, but it's huge. It's huge, you know. Actually, somebody said something interesting. They said it's the, like jazz is, which really kind of blew my mind. He said jazz is the space between notes. I was like, oh, my head, you know.
Oh, right.
It is space though, right?
Yes, and that also is a lifelong learning, you know, there you have a lifelong relationship of getting even more masterful when it comes to that. But I'm so on board with that, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also another thing that you do, which I is in my reality, is you repeat groovy lines, you know, as a as one of the musicians in the whole thing. Ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, like, because that actually is what we do, what musicians do. Yeah,
Yes.
it sets up some kind of a something to react to and to interrelate to. It's really cool.
Thank you for seeing that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, ah, oh, is this? We have a few comments. We have a few people here. Mark and Lisa
Cool.
Rich, who's a great singer, and
Thank
Rowan
you for watching.
Askarans. Huh?
I said thanks for watching.
Yeah. And somebody's comment, but they just took it away. So, okay.
Okay. Change their mind.
I guess so. So, yeah. Um, so, what do you do these days as far as what's kind of a week like look for like
Totally.
for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. And you know, I'm
That's
working
it's
musician.
funny that it's a great question. But you
No,
must be doing a lot of stuff that you like.
it is a great question, and it's also a great question, sort of on the heels of conversations I've been having with a lot of other musicians here in New York City, because the landscape has changed so significantly
Yeah.
through post pandemic, really.
Yeah.
So you know, I would say pre-pandemic, I was very much what you were talking about. I was like, where was I on Monday? Like, I'm doing 7 gigs a week. I'm doing
Yeah.
5 gigs in a weekend. It was just kind of really, really working, and, you know, working gigs. So not paying that much money, sort of the basic 150 to 250, right? Or
Yeah.
two, really. And doing a lot of those in order to be able to make my living. Then we lose everything, right? We stop singing. And we also did lose a number of those venues at which, like, I had a residency at 55 Bar before, so I'd be there weekly and stuff. And then an interesting shift happened that I'm trying to sort of still understand what has happened. It feels like the privatization, or maybe a little bit of a little more corporate. So some of these venues, sort of high end, some of them are members clubs, some of them are just more like high end, I don't want to say elite, but kind of venues popped up in New York City. And luckily, I sort of got into the circuit with some of those. So, and the pay is significantly better. They're beautiful stages, and everything has its pros and cons. I miss some of the accessibility of everyone being able to come to those shows, like just friends being able to come in, but those venues are also really kind to us, the people working there, so we can have guests and things. But it's very different than a 55 bar show where you pay your 15 or $20 and you're in the fam, right? So I would say my week now is playing less than I used to. I probably do 3 to 4 gigs a week, or shows a week. And I would say also this distinguish between sort of background gigs versus shows. I do a lot more shows in New York City now, at like 5 or 6 rotating venues. And then I teach. My private lessons wax and wane. So right now I have 3 private students.
Uh-huh.
During the pandemic, I had quite a few more because people had more time.
Yeah.
I'm single, so I love, I try to also incorporate a lot of, I feel like the pandemic helped us with like wellness and balance. So, I definitely am very passionate about like nutrition and cooking and nurturing myself and treating myself well that way. Exercising. So I live in Harlem. I usually go down to the track at least a few times a week and either go swimming or run around the track or walk around the track. But yeah, it's mostly just kind of based around shows. I feel like it's a little more luxurious and a little better for my voice than it used to be because I have more time to be off, And then I'll do sessions with people, just connecting with new musicians. And I take my vocal lesson, which, I'm just starting to get back into. So it's a mix, a lot of music in there, but I do feel like I have more time than I had pre-pandemic, which is nice, but always, always an adjustment. And then there's admin days because I travel a lot. So I'm playing in Europe. I'm playing Ronnie Scott's for the second time on May 24th, which was a really cool opportunity for me and came out of the booker just hearing my song on Jazz FM UK. So it was very, very cool for me to get into that world. So I'm working all the time during the day of like booking my musicians' flights and emailing as we do. There's a lot of that's at least, I need to carve out at least 2 days to do that a week, that are pretty much big chunks of 4 or 5 hours minimum to like really make some headway on. I've got Europe in May. I'm doing North Carolina at the end of this month. Philadelphia in March. Trying to spend a good amount of time in Spain at some point. So I'm working on booking Spain for June. So you know how it is. It's like I have to just a running list of things I got to check up on. And I think people don't know that about our work is that you really do have to spend a lot of admin time in front of the computer.
Yeah, there's I was trying to I when I went to the Jazz Congress, I heard this young black saxophone and singer person speak with Dee Dee Bridgewater and Patrice Rushen. And I didn't know her name, but I see that she's doing a show in a nice venue out here. But
Is it Camille Thurman?
no, no,
Okay.
it's an unusual name. But anyway, very nice to listen to her speak. But she does absolutely everything. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, wow, she really needs another tribe member. I mean,
Totally.
but she doesn't mind right now, but maybe as time goes on, she's gonna, she's gonna start getting a little tired because she's
Oh,
doing it
it's
all, you know.
yes. I had someone on board for a little while who then sort of changed course, but it is, and especially because it's in my world, at least as an independent artist, there's this huge influx, right? Where it's like I'm planning a big chunk of time and there's just it's nonstop, and like middle of the night I'm like, oh God, I forgot to respond to so and
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
and then like it'll ease up for a few weeks. I'll get those flights booked and I'll send those contracts, and then it's like, so it's
yeah,
also very inconsistent, which makes it hard to have someone, or for me to justify sometimes having someone on board. But when it's really crazy, I'm like, what am I doing? How am I doing this by myself?
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, right? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Hi, Tanya Grubbs. How are you?
Oh, hey.
Okay, so Charles Tellerant. He
Hmm.
said, I sat in on drums with Emily once at Smalls on a jam session, and we played an up-tempo version of Summertime. Emily's contagious go for it attitude admittedly got the best of me, and I overdid it a little volume wise.
Oh.
A few of the musicians complained, and I approached her afterwards and apologized. No apology needed, she said. That's how I like it.
That's hilarious. It is a little bit of a school of mine of like, I don't, the idea that we're singing and that we're singing on top of some bed of roses that the musicians make that's like all down here is not how I feel like we're all in it together. Yes, of course, more and more listening and dynamic, always good.
Yeah,
Space,
yeah.
always good. But like, I'd rather have your voice in there and enthusiasm in there than not. Because when it's not there, I'm like, "Ugh, that did not feel good." I like presence. I like people that are engaged and trying to say something. So,
Yeah, yeah. When you come out here again, you should plan. I'll be happy to go with you on a Monday night to the Sofitel Hotel, which is led by uh, his name just escaped me. He's a bass player. He's a real business guy, and he's a
okay,
great player. And he
cool.
has a lot of different things that happen. And this Sofitel gig is weird. It's in Beverly Hills,
Hmm.
and like he'll play jazz, but he'll eventually get into pop and R&B, and people will come and sit in, and it's kind of an interesting thing. And the drummer is kind of a guy who reminds me of John Davis. His name is going out of my mind too. Anyway, I'll tell you later. But
Yeah.
he's a drummer who can play like what I heard John playing, and also like take my music and make it real sensitive, but moving and add. I like drummers who are open and creative. I mean, that's
Yes.
what Lyndon Rochelle. That's his name.
Oh, I do know Lyndon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because he's done my gigs and like,
Very cool.
yeah, like totally sensitive and
Yeah.
just adding the right stuff. So anyway, he's on that gig too.
Cool. I
So
remember hearing him with Esperanza, and when I was out
yeah,
in LA this last time, he was playing with Sam, and I was like, I remember you made such an impact when I saw you play with Esperanza. I also like drummers are my heart. I just have so much respect for it, and also feel like that's what I have to lock in with first. Like, if I have to pick, like, I'll just say that a bad drummer just kills it for me.
yeah.
Like the whole thing, I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna throw this out the window. Like,
I
I
know.
just so love locking in with a drummer, with phrasing and everything. And then when they have that dynamic spirit and that understanding, I feel like there's a drummer singer thing that just we just have a thing together. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I can't, I mean, the tick, 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 I could kill the person or I could just go away and
Oh,
it's like, why? Why?
yeah.
I I won't mention names. Some of you out there know what I know my true feeling, but the only thing that really, I'm a very chill person.
Yep.
That pisses me off is when somebody, I feel is not respecting the music.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I will leave the premises, because I'll get like Tourette syndrome or something. I'll
Right.
just really like, worked up. And this one drummer who should know better, I don't know what it is with him over the last bunch of years. He's like an ultimate great jazz drummer who's done
Hmm.
amazing things. But I've heard him in several situations where he's playing like he's playing for a casual or, like a GB thing. And I, I always kind of give him like, room to like, okay, he's just settling in.
Sure.
By the third or fourth song, I'm starting to lose it because I don't get it. One time I heard him with two of my dear friends who were really top jazz players, and he was doing that the whole time, and I felt he was so rude. I felt he was dissing them or something, because they hadn't accomplished what he had accomplished or something.
Mm.
No, but it was wow. So that
Yeah.
kind of really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Do you ever get pissed
I
like
think
that?
I feel like I definitely am similar to you in that I really, especially because I play with a lot of pickup or
Yeah,
a lot of new people all the time. Like I have my crew here, but I'm always playing with new people. That I, as a band leader, I want to give people a lot of space and a lot of, like you said, I want people to feel comfortable, to settle in. I also hired you for your individual voice. And I can feel it when you're completely off doing your own thing. And I just don't, I don't even, I'll give some direction, of course, but like in general, I'm just kind of like noted
yeah,
and no thanks, you
yeah.
know, because but I think I have maybe a more like that drummer commented a little bit more of an open, tolerant idea of just creating with kind of what people tend to bring to the table. I know some band leaders, and I respect it. I respect it, and about like this is my sound, and I need you to execute my sound, right? Whereas to me, it's like I hire people whose sound I love and who I think will fit with my sound, and then it's kind of like I tend to give people a lot of room, musically speaking, in my music. Like I didn't tell John anything, partly because he's John, but partly because like do something that's gonna also then inspire me. But totally with you on like if you're doing something that isn't inspired by the music and that isn't inspired by that moment, then like that is awful too. you know? So luckily I've had mostly great experiences. I feel like most people that I get to work with, and I say get because, most people really do bring something special and inspire. I've only had a couple experiences where I've had to be like, yeah, I won't be doing that again.
Yeah.
When I felt excluded from my own music, and I'm like, okay, no, and you got to pay the person at the end. I'm like, okay, that was not what I, like now I got to give you money for that.
Mark Baldrich, oh, he's very happy to meet you, and he likes your song Soul Walk. He
Aw,
gave me the link. So thanks.
aw, thanks.
Um,
That was the first song I ever wrote.
oh,
It's quite simple. It's kind of like a funk thing, and then the disco thing on the chorus. But it's fun, and I in live I throw a lot of other tunes in the mix, so
uh,
it can be an epic song too. It can go on for a while, but it's pretty fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, how important do you think social media is for you? Do you use it? Are you a tech
Yeah,
person?
yeah, I use it. I try to have a healthy balance with it. I could afford to use it more. I admit I could afford to be on here singing but I think it's a general racial thing where I straddle the pre-social and the need social, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like not natural for me to be like, "Hi everyone, how's it going?" Like that's not doesn't come naturally to me. But, I'll post live videos and occasionally like sing into the screen, but it's not really it's a business tool. And yeah, I could be better. I do think it is important. But I also think you can find your own comfort level. Like I see some people just really stressing over it. I'm not doing enough or my numbers aren't high enough, and it's like I try to be really consistent with what I do put out there and not sweat it. But I could do more.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah, that's
honest, I could care more.
no, I put it, like 1 foot straddling. I mean, that's my feet are spread a little more open because I'm older, but that's what I feel like too. And I know how it feels for me to like worry about that stuff, and it doesn't feel good, so I tend not to do it. Yeah,
Yes.
because it's like politics. I'm doing the best I can, and I can't control everything. So
Yeah.
I'm the best I can,
I
and
also try to encourage my students and myself too that to share on YouTube or social media as a way of just building your online presence and not being so fixated on the one particular number that you get for that particular video, but that when some booker goes or some friend goes or goes to look, it's like overall you do get a sense. So that's partly what motivates me, is just building a consistent online presence, posting all those Sam first videos. They have a few hundred views, but like it's something I'm proud of, and that down the line I still want those to be up so that people can see.
yeah,
So I think that I try to zoom out a little bit and just be like, even in promoting singles, which can be infuriating because of the algorithm, you're like, hey, I just spent my entire life savings making an album, want to hear it? And it's like 2 likes, and it's because of the algorithm. They don't want people going off of their site. So, but and I really, that was hard because you create so much when you make an album. But I tried again, just I'm building up my presence so that people can have a sense overall of what I'm doing. It's not so much about the specific little things for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can really understand the singles. I put out a number of singles over the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
it was good. It was good to do that, and I created the iMovie, and that was good. I actually enjoyed that. It was being like an engineer in the studio. I enjoyed that part of it. And I have several other songs sitting waiting for me to do that again. It's just not where my interest is right now, I guess. And but yeah, and I wonder, like, I have a record waiting, for me to basically come together with all the money that I need to kind of, put it out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool. It's a cool concept. It's a nonette, and it has this really varied music and good arrangements. And um, I already went to Norway to a college and ran the students through the music.
Oh
Um,
wow.
is something I want to do more, and I think it's age friendly.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and so part of me contemplates, and there's no rule book, there's no right and wrong really. It's just what you can get behind. But part of me thinks about, well, maybe I should put out a single,
Mm-hmm.
like singles from the whole record, and then work on it, for with other ideas as a product. Which again, there's no rule book. You can do it, and it's just what you get behind.
What's really funny too, like two thoughts. So what's funny too about the singles is we're so invested, right? We put this baby out and it's like, look at my little baby I made, and it's like a flash in the pan. It's a blip on the screen. And some people are just literally like, oh, I like this person, I'm gonna like that. They didn't listen to the whole thing. So for
Uh,
me, part of this journey has been like taking it less seriously, honestly. Just being like, this would be really cool if people watch it, but like really getting mentally strong about just understanding not to take it so seriously. And also you can always put more out. Like I just released a single and it made me laugh because it is so Sweet Little Dream is on my album as a trio recording. And then I had this other recording version of it with a special guest and very different sound, like harmonies, and it's more produced version. I just released that in January. most people, even people who are like my like fans were like, I love this new song. And I was like, it's not a new song. So it's sort of funny because you just realize like people are all over the place and not really paying attention. Like one person was like, this version of the song that you do and your original song is fantastic. And I was like, thank you for actually telling me that you listened to it. But so part of it's not taking it as seriously. And then the second thought I have about social media too, and a lot of people, friends who are very good at social media, have been like, you should really capitalize on like body positivity and fat positivity, and you should make that like your brand and stuff. And I am just stubborn. I'm just really stubborn, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna simplify what I'm actually all about, which is my body is one of the least interesting things, and it's very interesting about who I am and my presence. And also like the flip of that is that me sharing clips, videos of my whole body, which is very non-conventionally, I'm not conventionally attractive, right? That's fine, it has nothing to do with beauty. But like I've realized that, again, building a presence on there and having people that follow me, it's already in the water. You're already like, there's something really powerful, and there's something of just being visible as a person in the body that I'm in, and not taking selfies from up here and not pretending like I'm not a really, really big person, so that people who are also in whatever way relate to that, relate to being outside of the thing, right? Which we all do, to be honest. Like, I feel like it speaks for itself, and I appreciate people who are vocal about whatever it is that they're judged for. I really truly do. But for me, I've just been like, I'm gonna stay posting on social media and sharing things, even sometimes when I see it and I'm like, oh, I don't like how I look in that, or like, oh, that person caught my terrible angle. I'll really challenge myself to share it anyway, from a non-emotional place, in the spirit of connecting with other people and being visible as someone who's told you're not supposed to be very visible, right? So
And
there's that aspect too that motivates me to continue to at least participate and just share images of being a big person out in the world, having a great time singing songs, because that's only recently has that become more common. You think about those, Mama Cass, you think about those singers that were truly terrorized because of the size of their body, and it's like I get to now, I can freely share that and hopefully move people and touch people and connect with other people through just being.
that's great. Yeah, I really like that point of view. It's great. It's kind of, it's reminiscent of my feelings about, you know, um, I know I recognize persecution of race
Hmm.
and gender. I recognize that, and I'm not happy about it, on a broad human scale.
Right.
But sometimes when people focus on one thing, it annoys me a little bit. It's like, excuse me, this is a human problem. We're all screwed up. We all get persecution. We all have lives that, had pain in it. And, so let's help each other. You don't have to be black, you don't have to be white, Jewish, you don't have to be, whatever. We just help each other, period. It's broad.
I think, people that can speak to their specific experiences, and also there's an invitation in for other folks. I think that's super super powerful, and I think social media is a great tool for all types of people who have been alienated from whatever mainstream or normal is, to connect. And I think that, yeah, the tone of just like, not even the tone, I shouldn't even say that, but just like people being authentically themselves, and an invitation for other people to whether it's learn, connect, heal, all of those things, that is the best of social media. And then there's the other aspect of that's really hard. So, but yeah, I hear you. It can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Totally switching subjects.
Yeah.
You said you sing in Spanish as well. So when you sing in Spanish, is it different genres too, or is it one
Yeah.
whole
So
genre?
I've only composed one song in Spanish that's on my first album called Hace Mucho, and it's like I call it a paint by number. So it's sort of like a um Cuban, like it's got a fast tumbao thing, and then sort of a, I don't know, Afro Latin. It's hard to explain, but then the ways that I learned Spanish, mostly through traditional, I would say primarily Cuban boleros or traditional songs that way. So yeah, like I'll include a few like Sabor a mí or Como fue or a few of those more traditional songs in the sets. And then I've had really cool opportunities where like I was part of a Cuban band for a minute, which was hilarious, like white lady from Idaho singing the backups, like, but like I felt very humbled because the group was very welcoming to me, and I learned so much about being part of the coro and like learning about the tunes. So
Right.
yeah.
I love that. That's funny.
It is, life is funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, when you can really dive in deep to something,
Yeah,
it's really different and you're accepted and you can go in with humility and learn and yeah, it's fantastic.
absolutely. And I've just started after going to Brazil because of the Spanish knowledge that I have. Like I was there in Brazil for 2 weeks and I was speaking. I was in there. I was speaking Portuguese to the audience and
Oh,
started because I've always been so intimidated but so inspired by Brazilian music. So finally, got some lessons in person with some Brazilian singers who like helped me feel comfortable enough to sing, what do I have? Three, maybe
yeah,
four songs in Portuguese now. I feel like I feel like I must take a trip back to Brazil to continue to explore that. But no, it's so I love language in general and French. Working on a little bit. I took French lessons in the pandemic, and I think I've sung only a couple songs in French. But I just love language in general. So
yeah.
it's very cool. I got to go to Cabo Verde with the U.S. Embassy, and I was excited to speak Portuguese, but most people there speak Creole, so it didn't really translate. But even there, they taught me the big saudade, the big kind of anthem in a way that Cesaria Evora used to sing, and I was like, is it okay for me to sing this song again? Sort of like this cultural, where's my positioning here? And they were like, yes, it's okay. We want. So it was cool because I got to
Yeah,
learn that song as well and sing it with them.
that's great.
Yeah. I love, for me, music and travel and cultural exchange is
Yeah.
such a passion and it's something that I really strive for with music. It's just connection with people around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I've gone to Japan for years and years, and there was one song that was introduced to me by a very famous pop singer. Now she's probably dead now, I guess. But yeah, so it was a song called Ringo Oiwake, Apple Flower, and
Okay.
it was first introduced to me by a musician over there who Herbie he had heard. Um, Herbie Hancock do this song. And so that inspired him. He turned me on to it. And then I recorded it. And this, the Japanese producer, he was an older guy. He explained to me his concept of what it was. So, of
Okay.
course, I went away with that concept. And um, I've never found anybody who really disagreed with it, but it was about a time period in the war, and this girl and boy were in love, and the girl's parents had to sell her to keep the rest of the family going. And so, that was in there like her leaving, and, it was really delicate and sad and really beautiful. But to me, well, I love Japan anyway. Japan and I are kind of connected.
I want to
So,
go so bad. I'm so envious. Keep going. Sorry.
oh, you
Oh,
love
I
it.
want to go so bad.
You might have a little bit of a problem as a larger person. Or
Yes. I have traveled a little in Southeast Asia and it was intense.
yeah, my friend Rebecca Paris was a large person, and she 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 made me laugh with some of the stories. You just have to make
Oh,
sure, you know, where they're putting you, the bathrooms are big enough, because even for me, it's like my knees hit the wall, so
Lord have mercy.
so
Yeah.
I have to make sure, but I mean, you would love Japan. Japan would probably love you.
I
Yeah.
will go at some point. Anyway, continue on. Sorry.
Well, anyway, I love that too. And like you, I have maybe four or five Brazilian songs, and I did write lyrics to a song with his blessing of I want to say Javan, and it's not Javan. It's oh my gosh, why do I forget?
Yvonne as well.
One name. That's why I forget. So let me just look up my song, and then I can tell you. Maybe you know him. Cathy. I went to Brazil camp in San Francisco,
Oh,
and
cool.
he teaches there Ginga.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned earlier. I'm gonna definitely check out his music.
Yeah, really beautiful. Anyway, so I did write lyrics with his permission. And it was interesting. You probably can relate to this too. I wrote them in English, of course, because I'm not
Yeah.
fluent in anything else. But I wrote Brazilian style. And you know how Brazilian songs, they have this this amazing ability to have the heights and passions of love and the depths all in one song.
Yes.
Always just makes me kind of laugh. It's like, oh my God, you know. And so I wrote it in that way with kind of these picturesque um, ideas and lines, and I didn't know if he would like it or not, but he did. He said he
Oh,
liked
cool.
that was really good, and the song is hauntingly beautiful. Really.
Wow. What's the song called again?
Well, he calls it choro. He's actually just come out. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
He
please do.
he's coming out with a record in Portuguese. He's singing it in Portuguese. So, yeah. So, and
Awesome.
song. Anyway, it's been 2 hours, and I want to thank you so much.
Yeah, what a fun. I mean, awesome to talk to you. You're extremely interesting and a wonderful host, if you will. So thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great. Really nice to meet you,
You
to
too.
perspective, and to hear more of your singing. Yeah, it's great. Any plans to come out to LA in the near future?
I definitely will be. I actually, that's on my high on my list. So hopefully this spring, like sooner than later. So I'll absolutely be in touch when that.
Well, if I don't already have somebody else, I would love to make a workshop for you.
Oh, please, that would be incredible. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
for years. So,
Okay,
we'll talk about that. Um,
please.
and for those of you in LA, tomorrow night I have a gig in Pasadena, and it's an interesting gig. It's a friend of mine's monthly presentation. He's going to sing myself and Gary Fukushima for about 30, 40 minutes, and then Cheryl Barnes and Phil Cabasso for 30, 40 minutes. So you can find that information on my website. And next week, just sorry to keep you on here, but
Oh, please.
Monday, the noontime hang is, Cl- I always pronounce her name wrong, Claude Hall, Claude, Claude. Interesting name. Claude Hall, which people in LA know her. And anyway, and then Friday, John Krosnick with Charged Particles. He's an interesting guy. So, yep, that's what's happening in the near future. Everybody take care. Keep your umbrella with you, I guess. And Emily, great to talk to you.
So much for having me. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I appreciate it so much. Nice talking to you.
I hope we speak more.
Yeah, we'll stay connected. Thank you.
Okay. All
All
right. Bye.
right.
Have a good night.
Bye.